This is my video response to prove that Jesus is imaginary in less than 5 minutes. This is my first YouTube video, so cut me a little slack if the recording quality isn't top notch. But basically, this proof goes through and shows you 5 facts that they outline, which then leads to a prayer that they recommend that they contend won't work, and that's proof that Jesus is imaginary. The first 3 facts they outline that have to do with a passage in 1 Corinthians. You guys say that, obviously he appeared to a lot of people to prove that he was resurrected, and so this shows that it's okay for him to appear to people, and that 2, it doesn't damage free will or harm faith in any way. And I don't really have any problem with drawing those conclusions from that passage. The next 2 things that you guys outline as a result of reading Matthew chapter 18 verses 19 through 20, I think those conclusions from that passage are a little flawed. You guys say basically that Jesus is already here among us, and that God will do anything we ask if we're gathered together in groups of 2 or more. And reading the passage, it does say that, but something that you guys kind of leave out of it is that you have to be gathered together in God's name or as followers of Him, depending on which translation you're reading. It'll say one of the 2, and that kind of factors in directly as to whether the prayer would work or not, because obviously if you're using that prayer, you're not going to be gathered as followers of God. So that's a little bit of a problem there, which I'm going to kind of expand on once I start talking about the excuses that you guys provide a link to on the video, which at the bottom of that list of excuses, it kind of rephrases your 5 facts, and it rephrases it in such a way that it kind of creates a 6th fact. And as it reads on your website, I think what it says is the only way for Jesus to prove his resurrection is by appearing to people, and therefore each person needs Jesus to appear to them to know that he's real. And I think there's a problem with this idea, because Jesus did appear to a lot of people to prove his resurrection, but that doesn't mean that he needs to appear to every single person for those people to believe in it, to know or have faith, however you want to say it, that he was resurrected. I guess to kind of rephrase the same idea in another way, would you say that you have to personally witness every scientific experiment and where those results come from to trust in the results of those experiments, or would you be willing to accept an account of those experiments, some recording of how it went? And I think you kind of see where I'm going with that. With these excuses that you guys list on your website, it's things that Christians might say in response to this proof. And the first one is that some Christians might say, well, no, the Bible doesn't say that Jesus is going to answer your prayers. And you guys list a lot of verses that show that he does say that. And I personally don't really know a lot of Christians that would contend that point, that Jesus will answer prayers. But there is kind of a theme in all of these passages that you provided outlining that He will answer prayers, and the theme is that you have to have faith. If you pray and you have any doubt that it's going to be answered, it won't be answered. So this prayer that you offer as a proof that He's imaginary doesn't really work, because you wouldn't need to use that prayer unless you had doubt that the person that you're praying to even exists. That's a lack of faith that violates what the Bible says about answering prayers. So there's a little bit of a flaw in how this is going to work. I'm going to skip over the second excuse for just a minute. I'll get back to it shortly, to go on to the third excuse, because it ties in so much with the first. And that is the concept of that the Bible says, "Thou shalt not test the Lord." And you contend that, looking at it from that perspective, every prayer would be testing God. And that's not really what it's saying. The Bible first uses that in Deuteronomy 6:16, and it's referring to the events of Exodus chapter 17, verses 1 through 7. To kind of paraphrase what happened in verses 1 through 6, the Israelites are in the desert, and a lot of them are complaining of thirst, and they're having problems with not finding water. And so Moses asks God what he should do about that, and God tells him to take his rod and strike this rock by the mountain, and water would flow from it and alleviate their thirst. So after Moses has done this, in view of some of the elders, in verse 7, it says that the place was named two names which mean proof and contention. To, I guess, quote it exactly, says that they had named it that because of the fault finding of the Israelites, and because they tempted and tried the patience of the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" So that kind of, I guess, elaborates on what it means by that. If you're going to ask God something with the doubt in your mind that He's with you, then that's testing God. That's saying, "I'm not sure if you're here, so do this and I'll know." That's what the Bible says not to do. And so that's further illustration of why this proof doesn't work. When it gets on to excuse 2, see, excuse 2 here was that Christians would say it's not in His will to appear to people. And I think this would be a fault of a Christian if you were to say this, in response to the proof, because there are several passages in which God does, Jesus appears after the first time He appears, immediately following His resurrection. You can see this in a few verses here. Let's see, Acts verse 7, 55 to 56, 1 Thessalonians 4:17, Revelation 1 verse 9 through 18, chapter 4 verses 1 through 2, chapter 11 verse 3, and chapter 11 verses 7 through 12. But the thing about all these examples is that in all of these examples, it's never because a person asked God to appear, or especially that they asked Him to appear because they didn't think He was there. It's always something that God did, and usually, as in the case of Acts and in Revelations 11, it was having to do with martyrs and God appearing to them right before they died, or sometimes, as in Revelation, after He was resurrected, or after the martyrs were resurrected. And so, if you look at it that way, you could definitely say that it's not in his will to appear to people who are testing him. So I think that would be a better way to phrase it, and I don't think you really captured the essence of that there. But anyways, those are just some problems that I had with your proof. Feel free to post a response to this if you feel the need to, and I'll see you guys later.